You're listening to a production of the National Media Archive. To learn more or volunteer, go to nationalmediaarchive.com.
The bosses who climbed the ranks of the Chicago outfit in the 1930s were hardened by one of the roughest periods in American history, the Great Depression. These men weren't just ruthless. They were forged in economic chaos, and that made them particularly brutal. By 1966, Paul Ricca had started stepping back, putting Tony Accardo in charge of most of the high-level decisions. That same year, Ricca ousted Sam Giancana and installed Salvatore "Sam" Giancana, better known as Sam Momo, as the new frontman. But that wouldn't last long. The outfit needed a new figurehead. They tapped Salvatore "Sam" Battaglia, street name Joe Rock. He only ran the show from 1966 to 1967, but it was enough time to leave a mark. Battaglia had joined the outfit under Johnny Torrio and Al Capone during the brutal turf wars with the Irish North Side Gang. His rap sheet was massive, over a dozen arrests for burglary, robbery, and murder. He was the prime suspect in 7 homicides. When Battaglia was called before the United States Senate Subcommittee on Investigations for Organized Crime, he invoked the Fifth Amendment more than 60 times. But the law caught up to him anyway. In 1967, he was convicted of violating the Hobbs Act for obstructing interstate commerce and sentenced to 15 years. He died at home on September 7, 1973, at age 64. Sam Battaglia was buried at Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Hillside, Illinois. The next frontman, Felix Anthony Milwaukee Phil Alderisio. Acting boss from 1967 to 1971, he served under Sam Giancana during the 1960s. Milwaukee Phil was more than a mob boss. He was a killer. Alongside fellow outfit hitman Charles Nicoletti, he carried out assassinations in a customized hit mobile. Hidden compartments, police countermeasures, and an arsenal of weapons made this vehicle a moving execution chamber. In May of 1962, Alderisio, Nicoletti, and Tony Spilotro were involved in one of the outfit's most gruesome murders, the torture and killing of Billy McCarthy. McCarthy had killed 2 men protected by the outfit, the Scalvo brothers, and that was all it took. They grabbed McCarthy, tortured him for days. Then they took out his partner in crime, Jimmy Miraglia. The killings were ordered by Ricca and Accardo. The McCarthy murder later inspired the infamous head in a vice scene in the movie Casino. In real life, it was Milwaukee Phil who turned the handle. The killings were dubbed the M&M murders, McCarthy and Miraglia. Milwaukee Phil's criminal resume was nearly unmatched. He was arrested 36 times. Charges included assault, battery, racketeering, loan sharking, illegal gambling, hijacking, narcotics trafficking, counterfeiting, bootlegging, bribery, extortion, and murder for hire. In 1971, Alderisio was convicted of extortion and sent to prison. He died of natural causes later that year at age 59 inside the United States Penitentiary in Marion, Illinois. He, too, was buried at Queen of Heaven Cemetery. Using frontmen like Battaglia and Alderisio was a long-running tactic by Ricca and Accardo. It kept their hands clean and their names off indictments. Ricca died in 1972 at age 74, finally done in by age and health problems. He had been 9 years older than Accardo and had served as a mentor in their early years. Ricca was the outfit's quiet tactician. He was convicted of murder in 1917, extortion in 1943, and tax evasion in 1959. But he was rarely seen and never flashy. In the early days, he often overruled Frank Nitti. His way of settling disputes was simple. We'll do it this way. Let's hear no more about it. In 1932, Ricca's power was on full display. New York's crime bosses, including Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky, traveled to Chicago to meet directly with Ricca, not with Nitti. The meeting took place at the Congress Hotel. When Chicago police arrested them outside, a photograph captured the moment, proof that Ricca held the real power. By 1958, a Senate crime committee named Ricca the most important criminal in the United States. The federal government never stopped watching him, but he died with decades of outfit secrets still buried. After Ricca's death, Tony Accardo became the undisputed boss of bosses in Chicago. During Sam Giancana's 9-year exile in Mexico, Accardo cleaned house. The first major casualty? Sam DeStefano. known on the street as Mad Sam. A loan shark with over $1 million out on the streets, Mad Sam wasn't a made guy, but he had muscle and influence. He was also a complete psychopath. He abused everyone, including his own wife. He was brought into the outfit while in Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary in the 1940s and met heavyweights like Ricca and Louis Campagna. His rap sheet was long: bootlegging, gambling, bank robbery, rape, and gun charges. In 1955, Sam Giancana ordered DeStefano to murder his own brother, Michael. Michael was an outfit enforcer who had gotten hooked on heroin. That was enough. If there was even a hint someone might talk, they were removed. DeStefano followed through without hesitation. He cleaned Michael's body, dressed him in a suit, and stuffed him in a trunk. Police found the body quickly. In 1961, rumors began circulating that another outfit member, William Action Jackson, had become an informant. Mad Sam didn't wait for proof. Jackson was kidnapped, hung from a meat hook, burned with an acetylene torch, and tortured for 3 days before dying. His body was found in the trunk of his car on Lower Wacker Drive. The torture murder of Jackson is widely considered the most sadistic in outfit history. Mad Sam mentored Tony Spilotro, teaching him how to kill with anything from hammers to blowtorches. But Mad Sam had become a liability. He brought too much heat, especially from the media. He loved the attention, and that made the bosses nervous. On April 14, 1973, his time ran out. Tony Spilotro and Mad Sam's own brother, Mario DeStefano, picked him up from his house. As Sam approached Mario, Tony emerged from behind and fired multiple shotgun blasts into Sam's stomach. He died in his garage. It wasn't just about violence. It was about control. And when Paul Ricca died in 1972, the outfit shifted hard. Accardo took over completely, and anyone who didn't fall in line was removed, permanently. Salvatore Battaglia? Gone. Milwaukee Phil Alderisio? Gone. Sam DeStefano? Gone. Even Sam Giancana wouldn't survive, and the outfit, always changing, always adapting, moved into its next era, with new frontmen, new rackets, and the same old blood-soaked rules. After the deaths of Salvatore Battaglia in 1967 and Felix Milwaukee Phil Alderisio in 1971, Tony Accardo installed Joseph John Aiuppa as acting boss of the Chicago outfit. Aiuppa, known on the street as Joey O'Brien or Joey Doves, would hold that position until 1986. By his side was underboss Jackie Cerrone, also known as Jackie the Lackey. Cerrone's career in the outfit began in the 1950s as a chauffeur for Tony Accardo. From driver to feared enforcer, Cerrone rose fast. Over the course of 5 decades, he racked up over 20 arrests, ranging from armed robbery to bookmaking to embezzlement. Multiple murders were also pinned on him. Aiuppa and Cerrone ran the show until 1986, when both were convicted for skimming millions from Las Vegas casinos. It was a reminder that even in the shadows, the money trail led back to the bosses. Joey Aiuppa had a long history with the outfit. A former boxer, he started out in the 1920s under Torrio and Capone. At first, he was just a driver, but he quickly climbed the ranks, eventually operating several gambling joints in Cicero, underground casinos, bookmaking parlors, and brothels. In the 1930s, Aiuppa also had ties to the Dillinger Gang and the Karpis Gang. According to Chicago crime files, in 1935, he worked as a triggerman and bank robber for Claude Screwy Maddox, a teen member of the Egan's Rats gang from St. Louis. That gang was absorbed by the outfit and, like the 42 gang, became a farm system for new muscle. Maddox eventually ran the Circus Cafe gang, the only North Side gang that allied with Capone. Notable members included Tony Big Tuna Accardo, Anthony Tough Tony Capizio, Vincent Drucci, and Vincent Machine Gun Jack McGurn. Claude Maddox was also allegedly one of the planners behind the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. By the early 1970s, Accardo began tightening control over the 6 outfit street crews across the city. He remained behind the scenes while Joey Aiuppa served as the public face. Daily advisors included Sam Carlisi, Jackie Cerrone, William Butch Petrocelli, Chucky English, Lenny Patrick, and Gussie Alex. Here's how the structure looked. Northside crew, Capo, Dominic Della, underboss Vincent Solano, 26th Street crew, Turk Torello, underboss Angelo La Pietra, Cicero crew, Joe Ferriola, underboss Rocky and Felice. Elmwood Park crew, John DeFranzo, underboss Joe Andriacchi. Grand Avenue crew Joey Lombardo, underboss Louis Albano. Chicago Heights crew Al Pilato, underboss Albert Caesar. Tony Accardo's leadership shifted the outfit's focus to stability and long-term profits. He moved away from high-profile labor racketeering and extortion and instead expanded into areas that attracted less attention: slot machines, vending machines, and counterfeiting liquor and cigarette tax stamps. But the real game changer was narcotics. Accardo expanded drug trafficking and made Las Vegas a central operation hub. He made sure every legal casino used his slot machines and even managed to edge out the New York Five families in Vegas. He converted the outfit's prostitution racket from old-school brothels into a high-end call-girl service. On the West Coast, he ran bootlegging operations. But the genius of Accardo's system was in the insulation. Orders were relayed through 3 or 4 buffers, making it nearly impossible to trace anything back to him. For 20 years, that buffer system kept the feds at bay. But the one thing that never slowed down? The murders. In the 1970s, 2 especially violent hitmen rose to prominence from inside 2 of those 6 outfit crews. One was Tony Spilotro, the Ant. He operated under the Grand Avenue crew, led by Joey Lombardo. From the late 1960s through 1986, Spilotro was suspected in at least 25 murders in both Chicago and Las Vegas. The other was Harry Aleman, Harry the Hook. He operated under the Cicero crew, where his uncle, Joe Ferriola, was the boss. In 1971, the Chicago outfit created a hit squad called the Wild Bunch. Half a dozen killers, led by Aleman, were responsible for the outfit's most sensitive murders. From 1971 to 1981, they carried out 31 hits. Harry Aleman alone is believed to have killed 16 people, including one in Kansas City. One of those victims? A man named Ronnie Magliano, an outfit fence, who had connections to a member of Aleman's own extended family. On May 12, 1975, Aleman and 2 of his men visited Magliano at his heavily fortified home. Magliano let them in willingly. They tied him up, blindfolded him, beat him, tortured him with acid, then executed him with a shot to the head. They set the house on fire before leaving. No witnesses, no survivors. Outfit policy. Then came a major problem for Accardo in 1977. A burglary crew tied to the outfit robbed his suburban mansion. Big mistake. The break-in happened while Accardo was in California. But when he came back, Joey Ayupa said, "I never saw the old man this angry." What followed was pure bloodshed. 10 murders, one purpose: restore the order. It started with a jewelry store robbery. The store was owned by Harry Levinson, an outfit-connected bookie. The loot vanished. Accardo got involved personally and ordered 2 of his top men, Jackie Cerrone and Gus Alex, to find the culprits. Tony Spilotro in Las Vegas immediately pointed the finger at the Mandel crew. Cerrone and Alex leaned on the local fence and got the stolen goods returned. But when John Mandel, the burglary crew boss, found out his merchandise had been handed back to the original owner, he lost it. So he escalated. Mandel robbed Accardo's mansion, thinking he'd get his goods back. What he got instead was a death sentence. John Mandel's burglary crew underestimated everything, especially how far Tony Accardo would go when crossed. The outfit treated the home invasion like a declaration of war, and Accardo responded with military-grade retaliation. On January 15, 1978, just 10 days after the robbery, Mandel disappeared. Days later, his body turned up in the trunk of his own car. He'd been stabbed, strangled, and had his throat slashed. Outfit hitman Ronnie Jarrett had lured him into a garage where brothers Frank and Nick Calabrese carried out the execution. That was just the beginning. On January 20th, Mandel's second-in-command, Bernard Buddy Ryan, was found slumped over the steering wheel of his car, 4 bullets to the back of the head. February 2nd, Steve Garcia, another crew member, turned up in a car trunk near the Sheraton Hotel by O'Hare International Airport. Then, February 4th, a public execution in a Cicero restaurant. Vincent Moretti and Donald Reno, both associated with the Mandel crew, were ambushed at the bar. They were beaten, stomped, slashed, and left bleeding out on the floor. The jukebox played Strangers in the Night as the hit team carried out the double murder. The press ran with it, calling it the Strangers in the Night murders. The team behind the Purge? A who's who of outfit killers. Nick Calabrese, Frank Calabrese, Tony Barrino, Joe Ferriola, Butch Petrocelli, Frank Calabrese Sr., Johnny Monteleone, Ronnie Jarrett, and Jimmy LaPietra, with LaPietra manning the police scanner in the car. Why was Moretti targeted? Simple. The ex-cop had been seen flaunting Accardo's stolen cufflinks around town. It was personal now. By April, the rest of Mandel's crew had been eliminated. Bobby Hertog's throat slit, body dumped in a car trunk. Johnny McDonald shot in the head and left in a West Side alley. Even Accardo's Sicilian-born caretaker, Mike Volpe, vanished on October 5th after testifying before a grand jury about the break-in. His body has never been found. But Accardo didn't stop with the burglary crew. 2 outfit enforcers who'd been involved in the cleanup were also eliminated, possibly because they knew too much. On May 22, 1978, Anthony Little Tony Borsellino was found shot in the back of the head, dumped in a cornfield in Will County. Borsellino had been part of the Wild Bunch hit team. By September 18th, Gerald Jerry the Dinger Carlucci, a driver and bodyguard for acting boss Joey Ayupa, was also found dead, shot in the head, left at an apartment complex in Addison. The Calabrese brothers, who handled much of the actual killing, were spared. Decades later, in 2004, Frank Calabrese Sr. would be convicted of 3 of those murders: John Mandel, Vincent Moretti, and Donald Reno. Everyone else involved, either dead or cooperating. The Mandel crew thought robbing Accardo's home was just another job. What they didn't realize was that they had declared war on a man whose nickname was Joe Batters, given to him by Al Capone himself after watching him beat 2 traitors to death with a baseball bat. When Tony Accardo got mad, bodies dropped. That was how order was maintained. The outfit wasn't just murder and rackets. It was structure, control, and every piece of it had a purpose. After the Mandel crew got wiped out, Accardo turned his attention back to internal management. He wasn't looking for headlines. He wanted stability. So, in the late 1970s, while the outfit was still riding high on its Vegas skim and Chicagoland gambling profits, another internal war exploded, one that lasted over a decade. It became known as the Chop Shop War. It started in 1971, deep inside the Chicago Heights crew, one of the outfit's strongest operations, and it ended in 1983 with over 30 murders and a crew left in ruins. The early days of the stolen auto parts racket were run separately by 2 outfit members, Albert Caesar Taco and James Jimmy the Bomber Catuara. Both organized sprawling networks of car thieves, body shops, salvage yards, and parts runners. And it worked. By 1978, the racket was worth millions. An estimated 40,000 cars were stolen annually in the greater Chicago area, and over half were tied to the outfit. But Tony Accardo wanted consolidation, one centralized chain of command, so he put a tax on everyone involved. Those who paid got to keep working at a cost. Those who didn't pay, they started dying. The internal fighting between Taco and Catuara quickly escalated. Both men had heavy crews behind them. Catuara's squad was especially vicious, a mix of Italian and non-Italian hitters. His top enforcer, William Billy the Chopper Dauber. His number 2, Sammy the Mule Anarino. Then there was Steve Ostrowski, all known killers with serious reputations. Catuara had history. He got his nickname the Bomber during the Chicago taxi wars of the 1920s and 30s, blowing up cabs for territory. In 1933, he was busted carrying dynamite and served 8 years in Joliet. But after that, he became one of the outfit's top earners. When Al Pilato, a longtime boss of the Heights crew, retired, Catuara was unofficially running the street end of the chop shop business. But Taco's people were waiting. In 1973, after serving prison time, Taco got out and made a move. What followed was 12 years of bloodshed. Early casualties were warning shots. In 1969, Harry the Cat Carson, co-owner of South Chicago Auto Parts, was blown up by car bomb. 2 years later, Robert Bobby the Racer Pronger, a master car thief, disappeared. His body was never found. Then the pace quickened. In 1972 alone, 4 known associates were executed, including outfit enforcer Guido Weed Scarfone, who was gunned down in front of his own gas station. After a brief pause, the war exploded again in 1975. Over the next few years, the hit list grew. Harry the Hat Holzer and his girlfriend Linda Turner shot at their Michigan home. Jesse Richardson killed in Cicero for not paying street tax. Donald Eldorado Donnie Crawford executed in a Southside parking lot, and Jimmy Sugar Baby Small thrown from a third-story window. Many of these murders were connected to street-level disputes over chop shop profits, narcotics overlap, and crew loyalty. The outfit didn't just let the crews kill each other. They stirred the pot. Investigators found that outfit leadership brought in hitters from outside the Chicago Heights crew to stoke the chaos. The bosses didn't care who won. They just wanted the business unified, and anyone unstable eliminated. Then Catuara made a mistake. In 1978, his crew launched a campaign of intimidation against state auto investigators. They shot out squad car windows, tampered with brakes, loosened tie rods, even placed a pipe bomb on one agent's back porch, inches from a gas line. The bomb didn't go off, but the message was clear. Unfortunately for Catuara, that message was also loud. It outraged the bosses. This wasn't how the outfit handled law enforcement. It brought heat, and heat brought indictments. Catuara had made himself a liability, so the bosses turned to one man to fix it, someone more feared than any enforcer in the Chicago Heights crew, Frank the German Schweihs. Schweihs wasn't a capo, he wasn't a frontman, he was the nuclear option. If the outfit needed someone dead and they needed it done clean and fast, they called Schweihs. His nickname on the street, the Babe Ruth of outfit hitmen. Even other killers feared him. On July 28, 1978, Schweihs and another shooter executed Catuara in public. 5 bullets, 2 to the head, 1 to the neck, 1 to the face, and 1 to the back as he tried crawling away. Message sent. Problem solved, but Schweihs didn't stop there. Frank, the German Schweihs, operated like the outfit's internal cleanup crew, and once he was activated, the bodies didn't stop dropping. Schweihs became the invisible hand behind the final stage of the chop shop war. He enforced order on behalf of the bosses, Accardo, Ayupa, and Sharon. And when Schweihs got an assignment, it was usually one way. His victims didn't talk. They turned into trunk music, outfit slang for 2 shots to the head and a one-way ride in a car trunk. And just like that, the outfit's most chaotic and costly internal war began its last chapter. On June 1st, 1979, Timmy Keystone O'Brien, a salvage yard owner and outfit associate, was found dead in the trunk of his car in Blue Island. He'd been under indictment for stolen car operations. Rumor says he was hit by Gerald Hector Scarpelli, one of Schweihs' guys and a known Wild Bunch killer. Next came Robert Chick Kowalski, a collector and chop shop operator with the Chicago Heights crew. On May 24, 1980, he was gunned down by a sniper while walking his horse in a Northwest Indiana pasture. 3 days later, his partner Eddie Coffee DeJesus was blasted with shotguns in an alley. Both men were suspected in earlier hits. The outfit tied off those loose ends. Then came July 2nd, 1980. Billy the Chopper Dauber, the Heights crew's most feared enforcer, and his wife Charlotte were chased down and executed in a hail of bullets on a rural road in Will County. They had just left a court hearing on drug and weapons charges. The Daubers were trying to cut a deal with the feds. The outfit found out. The response was swift and permanent. Billy's head was nearly blown off. Charlotte took multiple rounds through the windshield. This hit was carried out by the Cicero crew's top guys, part of the Wild Bunch, sent by the bosses themselves. Then came the attempted hit on Al Pilato, Chicago Heights boss and longtime outfit figurehead. In early July of 1981, while golfing the 8th hole at Lincolnshire Country Club, Pilato was shot multiple times. He lived, but his reign didn't. He went to prison and quietly stepped away. That opened the door for a final reshuffling. Tony Accardo, Joey Ayupa, and Jackie Cerrone made the call. They sent Angelo the Hook La Pietra, boss of the 26th Street Chinatown crew, to take control of the shattered Chicago Heights operation. This was a major shift. The war had left the Heights crew leaderless and bleeding. The bosses wanted it stabilized. But the killings didn't stop just yet. July 23rd, 1981, outfit associate Charles Charlie Monday Manzak was beaten to death and stuffed into the trunk of his own car on Schubert Avenue. A car thief and drug dealer, Monday had been running rackets out of a South Side chop shop. August 7th, 1981, his partner Anthony Legato was found tortured and beaten in his own car. Another hit tied to control over stolen parts and narcotics turf. November 1st, 1982, Harry the Recycler Rosenblum, another auto parts dealer, was gunned down by a four-man crew wearing Halloween masks inside his Hammond, Indiana shop. January 11th, 1983, Robert Pitty Satko, a drug dealer and chop shop operator, turned up dead in his Lincoln Continental's trunk at O'Hare Airport. He vanished 2 days before Christmas and missed his own holiday shipments. March 2nd, 1983, the final murder of the chop shop war. Michael the Monk Ciarrocchi, an outfit enforcer and one-time partner of Billy Dauber, was shot behind the desk at M&J Auto Wrecking. He had connections to the Grand Avenue crew and knew where too many bones were buried. One of his former underlings escaped prison just to kill him, a personal score tied to Dauber's death years earlier. On March 3rd, 1983, the killings stopped. Albert Cesar Taco was the last man standing. He'd outlasted Catuara, outmaneuvered internal rivals. When the dust settled, the Chicago Heights crew was a hollow shell, barely operating, barely earning. The remaining operations were folded into the 26th Street Chinatown crew under LaPietra's leadership. And just like that, a 12-year bloodbath ended, not by law enforcement, not by federal indictments, but by technology. The rise of computer-tracked vehicle identification numbers, improved record-keeping, and digital registration made large-scale auto theft rackets obsolete. The war that claimed over 30 lives was finally over. Every gangster in Chicago had a nickname, and in a world where fear was currency, those nicknames were earned, not given. Big Jim Colosimo went by Diamond Jim. Johnny Torrio was the Fox. Dean O'Banion, just Gimpy. Al Capone, of course, was Scarface. George Moran, Bugs. Frank Nitti was the Enforcer. Paul Ricca, the Waiter. Tony Accardo had two, Joe Batters and Big Tuna. Sam Giancana's nickname was Mooney, a reference to how unpredictable he was. Sam Battaglia went by Joe Rock. Joey Ayupa had Joey Doves. Jackie Cerrone was Jackie the Lackey. Angelo LaPietra, the Hook. Joey Lombardo became Joey the Clown. And then there was Tony Spilotro, the Ant. Sam DiStefano went by Mad Sam, and Mad didn't even scratch the surface. There was Teddy Rowe, called Robin Hood. Jake Guzik was Greasy Thumb. Jack McGurn, Machine Gun Jack. Sam Young ran the Policy Wheel Racket and was just known as Policy Sam. John Johnson was called Mushmuth and was the king of the black gambling circuit. They just called him the King. John DeFranzo was No-Nose. The nicknames read like a hit list, and a police blotter rolled into one. After the Chop Shop War ended in 1983, the Chicago Heights crew, once a dominant force, was absorbed into the 26th Street Chinatown crew. What used to be one of the outfit's top-earning crews had been reduced to a few scattered operations and fading influence. The bloodshed, the millions in stolen auto parts, the endless hits, all of it was extinguished by better tech, better tracking, and a federal law enforcement machine that finally caught up. And even the outfit's oldest hitman couldn't outrun time. Frank the German Schweihs, the most feared enforcer in modern outfit history, escaped indictment during the landmark Family Secrets trial in 2007, but not for long. He died in 2008 from complications from lung cancer and a brain tumor. That's what finally stopped him. Not the FBI, not a rival crew, not a hit. Schweihs was the outfit's final answer to any problem that couldn't be solved with money or intimidation. He murdered Daniel Seifert in 1974, Johnny Roselli in 1976, Charles Nicoletti in 1977, Alan Dorfman in 1983, and Charles Chucky English in 1985, and there were more, many more. Even inside prison, Schweihs carried weight. When Gerald Scarpelli, a member of the Wild Bunch who had flipped and become a federal informant, was locked up in the same federal correctional center as Schweihs, he ended up dead. Official story? Suicide. But somehow, Scarpelli managed to tie his own hands and feet and suffocate himself with a plastic bag in the shower. Anyone who believed that probably also believed in honest bookies. Whether Schweihs did it or Scarpelli just couldn't live with what was coming, we'll never know. What's certain is that even locked up, Schweihs was terrifying enough to make a career killer rethink everything. He was the last of his kind, and with his death, the most violent chapter of the Chicago outfit's enforcer legacy finally closed. By the 1980s, the outfit wasn't just shrinking, it was aging. The new breed of criminals weren't like the old-timers. They didn't follow orders, they talked too much, they brought too much heat, and they didn't know when to keep their heads down. But the bosses? They still pulled strings from the shadows. Even as indictments piled up in the 80s and 90s, Tony Accardo's command structure kept the outfit intact. His buffer system, the layers between him and the street-level soldiers, worked for decades. The outfit moved away from labor rackets and shakedowns and leaned into newer, quieter profits. Counterfeiting liquor and cigarette tax stamps, gambling machines and gas stations and bars, scams and shell companies. The more digital the world got, the more old school the outfit became. But one operation they never truly walked away from was Las Vegas. Skimming millions straight off the top of the casino floor was the outfit's most profitable long-term racket. They had their own slot machines inside legal casinos. They skimmed cash, they corrupted union officials, and when someone threatened the system, they disappeared. One of the most critical cracks in that operation came through the FBI's wiretap programs in the 1970s and 80s. The Bureau had planted bugs in outfit hangouts, homes, and cars. That surveillance uncovered the Vegas skim and ultimately led to the downfall of top outfit names. Witnesses were murdered. Daniel Seifert, killed in 1974, just before he could testify against outfit enforcer Tony Spilotro. Seifert was gunned down in front of his own family. One of the shooters, Frank Schweihs. In 1983, Alan Dorfman, the outfit's banker and link to the Teamsters pension fund, was murdered in the parking lot of a Chicago hotel. The feds had convicted him and he was out on bond, preparing to talk. The outfit made sure he never did. Tony Spilotro, once mentored by Mad Sam DiStefano, had risen through the ranks with pure violence. He brought Chicago's muscle to Vegas, ran street rackets, ran murder crews, but he got sloppy, attention-seeking, flashy, and worst of all, unpredictable. The outfit bosses had a rule: no media, no attention, no cowboys. Spilotro broke all three. In 1986, the outfit took care of it the old-fashioned way. Tony Spilotro and his brother Michael were called to a meeting and never came back. They were beaten to death and buried in an Indiana cornfield. The scene was so gruesome, it was later dramatized in Casino. Their deaths marked a final warning to any other soldiers getting ideas. By the early 1990s, Accardo was still in charge, but he wasn't at the table anymore. He was behind the curtain, watch advising, and letting the structure run itself. Tony Accardo died in 1992 at age 86 of natural causes. The same man who ran the outfit through Prohibition, through the Giancana era, through Vegas and the digital age, died in bed, not in a trunk, not in an alley, in bed. The post-Capone story of the Chicago outfit is the story of Tony Accardo. He outlived every rival, outlasted every investigator, and buried almost everyone who challenged him.